Good evening, everyone. Today we're going to go over a real simple survival kit that I put together for family members. In fact, these two bags are going to, or actually there's 4 of them. They're going to go to my sister and my niece and their husbands. But I also make these kits for people at work. So I thought we'd just quickly kind of go through one of these kits. And by the way, Skipper T here, and I can't get it all in the picture so that you can see it in my face as well. But what I thought I'd do is regurgitate everything that's inside of this little kit. Now, first and foremost, we've got the bag. It's a very simple drawstring type bag and can be used as a haversack. If you're out in the field, you can collect items, you can put it in. You know, if you're picking up bark, grass, whatever it would take so that you can make a bird's nest and build yourself a fire. So anyway, that's why we've got a fairly large size bag, because now it can be multi-purposed. Plus, it can handle all of this equipment that's in here. So piece by piece, we'll just go through this right quick. First of all, you've got 2 extra Ranger bands, and all these are just cut up pieces of bicycle inner tube tires. These fit nicely around Altoid tins, okay? Now, last night I shot a video on how to make char cloth. Inside each one of these, I've got a Ranger band that's sitting on the outside. On the inside, I have the char cloth that we made. I have 3 or 4 pieces of jute twine in here. And jute twine is great. It's usually wrapped up in pieces of 3. You unwind it, you tease it up, and then you can make it into like a small bird's nest. Put in the inside of a bunch of leaves, corn stalks, grass that's been mowed along the highway, dead stuff that you find along the way. You'll be able to find that in the summer, the winter, the spring, the fall, whatever. You'll always be able to find some type of dry tinder. So you can work that around, you can get it broken up into little pieces, shredded if you will. That way you create more surface area and smaller pieces of surface area. That way when you go to put a fire to it, then that information, or that smaller piece rather, will heat up and combust and burst into flames. Very similar to what I did in the char cloth video that you can see on my YouTube channel as well. Anyway, another thing that I put in here, down underneath, I've got the char cloth that we made last night. That's these little black pieces that are here. This is the jute twine. I just cut it into 4 or 5 inch long pieces. One of my favorite things to put in one of these is dryer lint. Yes, it has hair and all manner of stuff in it, but dryer lint is extremely flammable. So that's just a good thing to have as a backup. Again, these are the pieces of char cloth that we made last night. We took 100% cotton, white cotton t-shirts in this case, and we charred this material inside the tin. You can see that on the other video. Anyway, each one of these kits contain one of these with the jute twine wrapped up in it as well. It's covered up, everything's tucked inside, and again, we've got this Ranger band, which is just a bicycle tire. We'll put on the outside, stretch it over the top, carry it right back to the center. Now you've got your fire tin with you. You can always make, you know, char cloth with this in the fire. That's why the Altoids tin's all burned up. Secondly, we've got another Altoids tin in here. This one, I've drilled 3 holes across the front. Put that up where you guys can see it. I've got 2 holes drilled on either side. And what these are vent tubes, or vent openings. Inside, you have a small grate that is easily removed just by pulling it out. You've got 4 Vaseline covered cotton balls just wrapped up in some saran wrap to keep them under control. You've got a Bic lighter in here because, well, Bic lighters can go a long way in a survival situation. But you also have these steel posts that are in here. The neat thing is these steel posts are threaded on the inside. So then what you can do is you can thread them to the bolts. I'll come around so you can get a good look at that. And you can see that down inside, there's bolts in here. They go through, it's got a small nut on the inside so that you can attach these particular posts to it. You put the 4 posts in like such. Gently done. These are steel posts. You can make them out of aluminum. I found out that the steel ones are actually a little bit less expensive. Now what we do, and we can bend these around just a little bit because it's a small tin that we're working with, or a tin material. Then we just come right back in here and we stuff our little screen back in, pop it down inside, and now what you've got is a small cooking surface here. You can put a cotton ball right here, get it going on fire. You can lay some small twigs on top. Now, when these are tightened down like this, you can set a canteen cup, or, you know, a titanium camp cup, aluminum, whatever, a small pot on here, and you can keep feeding small twigs, very similar to what we have in this bag right here, and you can put them on top. Now you've got a portable stove that you can boil some water, make up a nice, you know, some hot chocolate, some tea, some coffee. Shoot, you can cook ramen noodles on here. You can purify water. I won't say purify. You can disinfect water on this. Just makes a spiffy little campfire, or not really a campfire, but just a little cook surface that you can put a cup on top of. Tends to work out very good. It's very compact. Again, we've got the cotton balls. These are just, I take cotton balls and I just wrap them up in Vaseline, or just coat them over and over and over in Vaseline. That way, when you're out there, you can take the individual cotton ball, you can fluff it all apart, you can hit it with a lighter, you can hit it with a ferrocerium rod, and you can create a fire that way. As you've just seen, I do include a quart-sized bag with some pre-broken sticks in it. That way you've always got a dry source of kindling that you can put on your fire, or that you can use to create a much larger fire. That way you don't have to forage around for a bunch of dry wood that's out there. Also included in each of my packs, I've got 2, and I just put some saran wrap on these, but this is fat wood. And fat wood is the super tar, or not tar, but sap impregnated from a pine tree. And you can tell it's good fat wood because it'll be an orange in color. When you break this open and smell it, it'll smell like turpentine. Here's a piece that I cut off of a stump, and you can see on this side it's pretty just kind of grayish, you know, kind of looks like basically pine wood. But down here where this knot is, you can see where it's turning an orange color. You can really see it on this side good. But what that orange color tells me is that this is impregnated with that pine tar that's in every pine tree. A good trick on that is just being able to put a flame to it, and in short order, you know, it'll just take off and burn. So hopefully you guys can see that on the video there. And I mean, it takes very little to get a, you know, a piece of fat wood. And this is not the best one. This is just one that I had laying around. The really good stuff I put inside those little pieces, or inside those silomeals. That way you've always got a surefire way to make a fire. No, I don't include one of the big lighters in there. The small one that goes inside this little cooking tin here is just another way for you to make a fire if you're in an emergency situation. Another thing I always incorporate in here is a couple of pieces of scrap paracord. You know, you can tie all the knots. I did 4 basic camping knot video. It's on my YouTube channel as well. I think it's called 4 basic camping knots, something like that. But I always include a couple pieces of this. You can make prusik knots with this. You can make lark's heads. You can, you know, create something, tie off a toggle on something like this, and, you know, put a stick through it. Now you can hang it over a fire if you had a small pot. You can put the bail of the pot over top of your twig. I mean, there's just 101 uses for a couple of pieces of paracord. If you want to expand on your kit and add more to this, I would suggest that for $5 or $7 you can buy a 100-foot piece of 550 paracord in a variety of colors, whatever floats your boat, and you know, you could throw that into your little survival kit as well. I'd recommend cutting a couple of pieces of that down to about 20-foot lengths so that you can use them to suspend gear from the ground. You can use them to tie off a tarp, something like that. Then the other 60-foot piece, you know, again, you could cut those down and make, you know, 4 25-footers with a 100-foot piece. And now you could set up tarps, you could set up shelters, you could suspend gear. There's a lot of things that you can do with paracord. I just include this basic couple of pieces in here so that you've always got something. If worse comes to worse and you're experiencing the one mechanical injury away from an emergency and or survival situation, I mean, you could use these as tourniquets as well. So, you know, like I said, I put a couple small pieces in here. I recommend you buy a 100-foot piece. You can get them in any camping outdoor store and throw that into your pack as well. We've discussed the Ranger beads. We've got the fat wood here. The other thing I put in these is I put a knife of some kind. In this particular case, these are Mora knives. This is the Companion MG, I think they're 840s. On the outside, again, I've cut some inner tubes on here, and I've attached a ferrocerium rod. Now the ferrocerium rod wraps on here nicely, goes right inside there's actually 2 pieces of inner tube, a long one just to keep it in place, and then another one that I slide the ferrocerium rod inside of, okay? The ferrocerium rod is an absolutely wonderful device. It is designed to create a shower of sparks for you. It tends to have sparks that range in about the 2,000 degree. If we get them, you know, shaved off of here good and you get a nice spark going, you know, they say it's 2,000 degrees. Most of us refer to it as creating lava as opposed to a spark. We'll get into that and we'll show you how that works here in just a minute. The other thing that I put in the packs, and I get these from the Wilderness Outfitters store. I'll put a link down below to their website. But inside these little pouches, you have a piece of charred lamp wick, and that's real good. You can use this on the edge of a piece of chert or flint, such as this here. You can set it on there. You can strike it with this, and again, I demonstrated that in a video on how to make char cloth. Again, you can loop this. It's just a U shape. Loop it around here, kind of protect your knuckles a little bit, kind of get a good grip on it, and then you try to go about a 90-degree angle to the sharp side of this. You can put your little wrapped up piece of charred lamp wick, and that's just used for like an oil lamp of some kind. And then you can just come down the side, create a spark on that. Didn't quite get it with that one. I'll try a different edge here just for grins. Thing about this is you got to be kind of careful. You got to get your hands close, but you can't be wrapping your knuckles on this sharp piece of rock, because sure as the world it'll cut you open if you do. And see how that gives a nice spark like that? This one's a little harder to get going. Once you do get that going, you would cut it off. You would mate up the end that's on fire to the end that's not on fire like this, and you would get that going. You would blow on that till this other end, even if it's the end that you'd cut off, until that's sparked up. Then you take your cut off piece and you throw it into a bird's nest. You blow into it like I did in that making char cloth video, and shortly thereafter it's gonna erupt into flame. The other thing, again, you can do that. You can use your piece of char cloth here. This takes a spark a lot easier. You have to be gentle with this because this material is charred rather. And then this will sit on the edge, and it will accept and take a spark a lot easier than the lamp wick will, but the lamp wick definitely does work. I'm not hitting that at a very good angle there. Try a different spot. May have worn that side down, may need to nap that out a bit. And voila, you can see there's an ember burning on that already. put that out and see if I can save that for later. Wow, that gets really hot too. But you have to be very gentle with this because it will just tear apart and fall apart for you or rapidly in your fingers. So just keep a piece of chert, some sharp edges on it. Got this in here. This is just great for making sparks so that you can catch your char cloth on fire and get things moving in that direction. Now again, this is everything that I keep in these kits. It is a super easy thing to do then to make a fire. Any way you want to go about making that fire. The ferrocerium rod, I'll show you how that works with a cotton ball here. We'll make one. I'll also show you here briefly on how I make these. With that, just take your basic jar of cheap Vaseline. Pull the lid off. I take a dollop out on my finger, and all I'm going to do then is just work this around that cotton ball. Yep, it's messy. And all you do is just work it. Anything that gets up on your fingers, you just work it in. Nice thing about this is when you go to pull these out of your packs later and start a fire out in the woods, and most likely, you know, you might need this in the wintertime. Your car slides off the road, you go to the nearest tree line, get yourself a fire going. One of the things you do then, when you want to start the fire, is you pull this cotton ball apart. Now, the outside of that cotton ball is covered in petroleum jelly, and it will light on fire. But what we're doing is we're just pulling it apart so that these inside pieces are exposed. The reason we're going to do that is because we're going to use the ferrocerium rod, and we're going to see if we can get that ignited. Well, before I forget, I did add 2 other small pieces into each of the kits. These are great things for just making those pressing knots for stretching out your tarp, etc. It's always nice to have paracord and plenty of it. Alright, now that hopefully my fingers won't catch on fire. Now, we want to take our ferrocerium rod, okay, and I'll get this in close so that you can see. And what it is it's just a rod with a small handle on it. It's got a black protective coating on this. And you know, the first couple of scrapes we'll have to take that black off so that we can get down to the magnesium and potassium that's down inside. These particular knives are stainless steel. I prefer a 1095 carbon steel, but it's not a throw it in your car and forget about it type metal. With these you can do that more readily. The back of these on the spine, they were rounded off. I have taken a grinder and I've ground them off flat so that there's a nice sharp edge on it, which should work very well for peeling off this ferrocerium rod and creating a massive spark. We're going to do that down here, and we're going to do it on that cotton ball soaked in Vaseline, just so that you get an idea of how quickly you can start a fire. Now, a couple of things you need to know. One, we don't take and scrape the knife away from the ferrocerium rod. If we do that, the sparks can go everywhere if we have no control over it. Conversely, if we take it and hold the knife still and then pull the ferrocerium rod away from it, the backside of our knife helps us to point the spark where we want it to go. Now, if you want to, you can get down close with your, put your foot up here, rest your knife on it, get close like that. And once that 2,000 degree spark hits your cotton ball covered in Vaseline, you've got a fire. Now, simply enough, you can put a couple of small sticks on it out of this bag. This is going to burn anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes, depending on how much Vaseline that you have on it. But that is just a great source to get small kindling going. We'll just put our char cloth on there since we demonstrated how to use that in a different video. So these are all the parts and pieces that go into the survival kits that I put together for, well, basically my family and some friends. In this particular case, I did go the extra mile on this one. This is one of the guys' kits. The gals' kits are exactly the same, with the exception of I got them the pink handled colored Mora knives. They come in various colors. I like the green and black for the men, but for the ladies I got them a nice pink colored. It's my sister and my niece, and then their husbands have the military green and black. That way they can keep their kits apart. They can throw them in their cars, carry them with them everywhere they go. Outside of that, all of the material is the same in both of these kits. For both men and women, they all have all the same parts and pieces. Now, we could have put that cotton ball right on top of this. Then we'd had our little fire going on top of our little grate. We could have laid a couple of sticks in there in either direction, put our can over the top. Now we've got a secure way to make a fire. It's not gonna, you know, if the ground's wet, this is a great way to get it started. If you've got snow out there, again, this is just something that you can put on here. You can bend these little posts and make sure that everything fits the way it's supposed to. You know, if you don't have it right the first time, spin it around, because I just cut out this, what's called a hardware cloth. And these are just 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch openings in a steel mesh. And then I just cut it to open up around these edges. I fold it down on the sides like this. That way the whole thing will fit down inside. You got a little ash catcher. These holes on the side are designed to allow air in so that it'll blow up and make a good fire. As you can see, this has still got a little bit of flame going, but all I got to do is move that around a little bit, expose the other side, and I still have fire from a single cotton ball with just Vaseline smeared around the outside. I did try melting the Vaseline and then dunking the cotton ball into it, but I found that that impregnated too much of the Vaseline into the cotton balls. They got very heavy, and it was almost more difficult to get them started because we didn't have that dry fiber in the inside to catch that spark. You could make that same fire with your flint and steel as well. You could take that spark that comes off of this, if you could get it onto that cotton ball, you know, and it would fire up the same way. But when you're using a ferrocerium rod and you've got a 2,000 degree lava spark going, you know, that's not ever going to be an issue. So that whole thing burned the whole time we were talking there, and you know, we probably had 3 to 5 minutes worth of life out of that particular fire. So, you know, that's just a great way to get things started. The other thing that you can do on something like that is you can take your knife, you can come down here, and you can just do some rolling curls like this in that fat wood, okay? You can kind of see how that wood is just curling up there. Anything that comes off, well, you know, you keep that and put it in your fire too. Now this is just a kind of a halfway of doing it based over top of everything else. Let's see if I can get a little bit better. There we go. And you can see, and you just kind of go around the corner. This is called making a feather stick. And we call it a feather stick because these look like little feathers that we're pulling off there. Again, you can scoop all this together. You can put it inside that bird's nest. But the beautiful thing about the way that this is curling up like that, when you cut it real thin like that, is you touch a flame to that, and now you've got a nice, almost a torch type thing. And again, now I've got a fully engaged piece of fat wood here. I could set that down inside this little tin and really go to town with it. As you can see, that's flaming up nicely. Just because I cut those curls on it, they're staying there good. You know, this whole piece of wood's going to engage just because it's got all that pine tar in it, pine sap. That's called fat wood, and that is just a super easy way to start a fire. Now, depending on the situation, you know, I'd use those cotton balls in the lighter if I'm desperate, need to get something moving on quick. If I've got a few minutes, I'd use my flint and steel and char cloth on that just to ensure that everything's working the way it is. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but you can actually see the sap coming out of this piece of wood in advance, and that's what's burning on there, and then engaging the wood. You can tell that's pine wood and pine tar, because I'm sure you should be able to see that on the video, but man, that is some black sooty wood. I wouldn't cook over it, but that's sure as heck how I'd start that fire in a given situation. And like I said, I put anywhere from 3 to 5 pieces inside those little Seal-O-Meals. That way it's always dry, it's always ready to go. I'm gonna throw this in my fire pit before it burns my hands. Alright kids, that's everything that I put inside these little survival kits. Again, these are for family members. I give them to the people at work, especially the ladies that have to drive, 20, 30 miles to get to work. They come in from the country because we live here in the Midwest. They're out in places where, sometimes you don't have a 4-lane highway and thousands of people driving by. And I just want to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to survive basically any kind of a situation that comes up. This is a basic starter kit. You can expand on it from here. You can add, canteens and cups and, the water bottles and all that kind of stuff. You can really expand on that. If you want to see what a fully loaded survival pack or get home bag looks like, you can go and look at my YouTube channel video. That's it's called the LA Police Gear Backpack Review, and that's a fully loaded pack that I carry in my car at all times. It encompasses all of this equipment, but it also has a lot more. You'll find that an interesting video to watch. But this is the small survival kit that I make for people at work, and then I send to family and friends. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment out there. Like the video if you get a chance. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in it. But share information with me. That's how we all learn and grow in this particular endeavor of bushcrafting, if you will. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been somewhat enlightening. I hope it motivates you to put a kit like this under the seat of your husband's car, your wife's car, your brother, your sister, your mother, or your father. Anybody that travels any distance and they're more than 2 or 3 minutes away from a phone call, put something like this in their car. At least hedge the bet in their favor. Worst case scenario or best case scenario, you get off the side of the road, somebody shows up immediately to help. Worst case scenario, you have to take care of yourself. With this kit, you've got a better chance than without it. Anyway guys, thanks. We'll see you out in the woods. Have a great day.